you ready to explore exciting careers in neuroscience and neurotechnologies? Then join me, your podcast host, Dr. Milena Krastenskaya, or simply Dr. K, and my amazing guests on the Neurocareers Doing the Impossible podcast. Discover what it takes to turn the impossible into reality. Tune in now to a thrilling episode number 84. How can technology amplify human capabilities? Today, we're diving into the world of human-computer interaction to explore cutting-edge field of brain-computer interfaces. We're joined by Jaime Salas, a researcher and educator whose work at the Institution University of Envigado, IUE, in Colombia from 2021 to 2023 has impacted our understanding of these technologies. At IUE, Jaime led initiatives in industrial automation and explored the field of human-computer interaction, particularly through his work with brain-computer interfaces. His approach integrates deep learning, signal processing, and experimental psychology, enhancing how we interact with machines. During his tenure, Jaime's research incorporated methods like electroencephalography and eye tracking, aiming to elevate user experience and system functionality. He also served as a senior data scientist, developing key metrics to digital transformation and assessing technological impacts on society. Before embarking on his current PhD studies at Potsdam University, where he focuses on multimodal interactions between humans and robots, Jaime's contributions laid foundational work in digital innovation. Join us as we explore Jaime Salas' contributions to human-computer interaction before his transition to his current research endeavors. Stay with us. Hello, Jaime. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast today. Can you please let us know where you are joining us from? From what part of the world? And just briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Milena, for this space. And I'm Jaime, assistant professor in Institution University of Envigado. It is a city close to Medellin in Colombia. Colombia is in a South America country. And indeed, we are placed in the north part of the south continent of South America, but so part of America. Actually, I do realize that it's kind of the hero of the country America. We are placed in, like, if we relate the continent like a human body, we are at the heart. So that is Colombia. I am professor in this university.
Thank you so much. Jaime, can you also talk a little bit about your university? Because it's so interesting to get to know about different universities around the world. So what is it known for? How old is your university? And then maybe you also can talk about this neurotechnologies program that you have at the university.
Yes. Institution University of Envigado, it is a public university here in Colombia. It is kind of 30 years old. As you can realize, it's very new university. And in the Institution University of Envigado, we aim to educate professionals with a really strong background in science. We have the Faculty of Engineering. We are be part. And from this faculty, we have a research group called GTESI. GTESI in Spanish means a research group related to emerging technology, sustainable, and intelligent. So we have transversal lines in order to cover the four revolution topics, for industrial revolution topics. In this case, artificial intelligence, IoT, energy development. In my case, it is human-computer interfaces like virtual reality and other approaches. So we are located in the Valle de Aburrá, is the name of in Spanish, and this is the one of the most innovation part of Colombia because it's close to Medellin. Medellin is one of the most known city. Um, it was recognized like the most innovative city in the world in 2018. I don't remember right now the right year. And actually, Envigado was recognized recently as one of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. So in this case, we are in line of these principles of equality and in equality in teachings and research activities. So we are a growing university with a really strong plans about research and education.
Mm. Thank you so much. And it sounds really impressive. The university is really relatively young, yes, only 30 years old, and it has already this innovative projects and programs, including human computer interaction. What brought you to this field of neurotechnologies, human machine interaction? How did you get into this field?
Okay, my background is I am mechatronic engineering from a university here in Colombia, an institution of technology, it's the name. Later, I did a master's degree in computer science at Brazil in the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. In this master's degree, I dedicate to develop a brain-computer interface using body illusions. So I really love it. The fact of brain-computer interface is a highly interdisciplinary area. I think that science is kind of a conversation among several areas, you know. Brain-computer interface is the best example of how many areas could work together in order to improve the quality of life of people. So my real motivation is try to understand better the brain using my background. Of course, in my background, it's very computer science, engineering, but it could draw me closer to understand it and investigate more the brain. That's what one of my motivation. I always look it for exploring its neuroscience and psychology phenomena, even if it is not my major or my background. You know, it's kind of my my lovely reads. It's more related to philosophy of mind and all of these topics related to brain and body problem. So that it was really nice to find out that brain-computer interface it's a really bridge between engineering and neuroscience.
Thank you so much. And how was this problem established at your university, University of Envigado? Was it you who started the program, or was it already available and you joined it? Can you tell us about the history behind it?
Yes, that is a very nice history indeed, because after I finished my master degree, I stayed home during the pandemic situation. I was born in Pasto. Pasto is a small city close to Ecuador in the south part of Colombia. It's pretty long away from Envigado. It's kind of 1,000 kilometers. So I was finalizing some teaching activities in Pasto, and I received an invitation from Institution University of Envigado from Professor Edwin Moncada, who is the director of this research group I mentioned before. He invited me to establish a new research line in my area. He provided me all of the support and really good space, and also the facilities and all of the institutional um, yes, institutional support for carry out my research. And I really liked this invitation because Medellin to me was a very important city in my formation and in create my career indeed. I built my career in Medellin during my undergraduate, but I also learned about how research in Medellin, how I become scientist indeed in Medellin, the passion to investigate, to find out what is going on in the world and try to answer these questions through science was really, I got this in Medellin. So it was okay. I never had been working in science like professor in Medellin. I could be a really good opportunity to retribute something of what I already received. And I am teaching right now. I have a group of students where I currently a supervisor of thesis and undergraduate and master's degree level. So I'm very happy to just giving back some of the knowledge I got in Medellin. And this was almost 2 years when I was appointed as a professor here, and I'm very happy to stay more longer in order to just contribute to the formation of new talents because this city and our country is full of talent, and they need to be exploited to go further than just our country.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's such a beautiful story, also an inspiration for many of our listeners that you were given this opportunity to establish a new line of research and you really had this motivation to give back. And I think that really was the driving force that brought you here and provided you opportunities, yes, to express yourself through the means of research and also teaching. So, thank you very much for sharing that. Now, can you tell our listeners about this program that you established? Yes, this new line of research. What was that?
Yes, in this research lane, we work mainly in human-computer interaction, but I have also students working in IoT, developing projects in data visualizations and some application for IoT in precision agriculture. And also we have artificial intelligence projects using deep learning for evaluating and classifying potato leaves. But the main line is human-computer interaction because firstly, the motivation of establish this line, of course, more than my expertise, it's like we detected that its research is very absent in our country. Brain-computer interface is not one of the most expressive area here in Colombia in research production and in research itself. We are currently working in a research paper, a review, where we aim to diagnose what is the current state of BCI in Latin America. And we have a huge board. We try to review papers from each country of our continent and try to establish the current state of the research production of each country in brain-computer interface. And we detected that mostly areas here in Latin America and also in Colombia, it's related to signal processing, like evaluating classifiers, filters, and so on. And this is okay, of course. It's a very nice to have this kind of studies. But when I established this line, I wanted to just start with a new kind of production of BCI in Colombia. We wanted to be recognized like some of the most innovative research line or research lab in order to explore the new paradigms of brain-computer interface using virtual reality, body illusions, action words, and other approaches, and complementary signals like EEG or heart rate signals or another biosignals in order to use creating hybrid interfaces. So that was the motivation. This is the core of our research activities, try to get new insights for other areas in order to incorporate in brain-computer interface.
Thank you so much, Jaime. It sounds so inspiring to see the goals that you set up in front of you to really create an innovative program, not just repeat something that already was done or, or redo it differently, but really to bring innovation and to become this innovation center in human machine interaction. And I, of course, would like to learn more about that. But I also got curious about your review paper about the BCI state in Latin America in general. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that because I don't think we know that much about this. Maybe what was the most unexpected thing you learned while working on this paper?
Okay, I would like you to start with the motivation of this work. We decided to do this review in order to launch the BCI network in Latin America. There are a lot of networks around the world about BCI. We have the BCI meeting, the BCI Society, and also Neurotech. It's a really nice network, but it's more related to neurotechnologies. Of course, inside this neurotechnology is BCI, but we wanted to launch a dedicated network about BCI in Latin America. And one of the motivation of this review is, okay, if we wanted to launch this network, we need to have a roadmap in order to know what is the current state of BCI in Latin America, and also to establish several goals in short future to get collaboration among the countries, because that is one of the most difficult things, I think, in the area, because we are really like isolated in each country and we are very close. And we could put together several efforts to create this new world and to disseminate research in BCI through Latin America. So, firstly, we have criteria in order to identify what is the most common topic in Latam. And we divided this work in signal acquisitions and signal processing, application, rehabilitation, robotics, neuroscience, or human-computer interaction, paradigms, if the countries or researchers in Latin America mostly use model imagery, P300 or ESBAP, and other paradigms. Also provide ethics discussions. That is one of the most problematic thing, I guess, because mostly of the ethical discussion about the neurotechnologies are carried out in Europe and United States, but we are leaving behind that our contribution, our point of view, what will be the right use of these technologies in a near future. And that is one of the most important things we detected. And we need to be more involved in this high level discussion, because we have also several opinions about how could be these technologies implemented in our Latin American countries. And just to say, we reviewed 1,206 papers. It was a very huge work. It took several months. We are very happy to create a map of where we identify several research labs dedicated to brain-computer interface. This work, this research paper, will be launched in November in our Latin America workshop on neuroscience and on computational neuroscience, the fourth edition of LACIAN. We are the host of this event. This is the first event in Colombia, the first edition in Colombia, because the previous editions were in Brazil, and we are expanding this event through Latin America. And one of the motivation, of course, I am the chair right now of the event. So one of the motivation of create this network is also to disseminate its event through Latin America. Its event really has good participation in the previous editions, and we wanted to expand this event through Latin America in order to get more audience and get also more people involved in this event.
Yeah, thank you so much. This motivation of create a network and taking steps to do that reminded me of one of our previous podcasts where we talked to Asaf Harel from Israel. And he was sharing how they created a network in Israel for neurotechnologies, brain computer interfaces, and it looks like those networks now starting to build all over the world. And maybe soon we will be able, to connect all those smaller networks into one big network for human and computer interaction, neurotechnologies, brain-computer interfaces. So it sounds very, very exciting. Maybe you can just briefly summarize what you found after doing this research. What were your main findings?
Firstly, Brazil is the country with the most research papers related to brain-computer interface in the last 5 years. We decided to do this research from 2018. We found 227 papers about brain-computer interface coming from Brazil, and they lead the publication in English. That is one of the most important things also because, as you know, and the listener know, Latin America, it's mostly Spanish country speakers. So in this area, in research, it's well established the English, of course, for main language, but in Latin America, we have some of the difficulties about this language. So we also found that there are a lot of works published in Spanish regarding the brain-computer interface. So in summary, after Brazil, we found Mexico, Argentina, Chile, and Colombia leading its ranking in production of brain-computer interface. And Caribbean countries in Central America, it's Cuba, the country which a research established production in brain-computer interface. Just Puerto Rico have one publication, and the other countries don't have any publication in brain computer interface. So that is very alarming indeed, because it's like a Central America, it's not developing any research production in brain computer interface, and that we would like to try to get more information or disseminate the importance or maybe the opportunity of investigate what is the reason of why brain-computer interface is not a research area established in these countries. Regarding the Spanish, we have Colombia as a leading country in production of brain-computer interfaces paper. That's interesting, of course, because Colombia is a country with like to trend to publish in Spanish in order to get audience in the same country. No, and that is, of course, useful because we need to disseminate our work in our regions with our students. Basically, we could get more colleagues inside our country. However, real dissemination of our work could reach a world audience if these works could be wrote in English. And that could be also a really nice summary of its outcomes. And we could establish new learning programs about research in English. Because that is one of the most difficult thing, I guess, in our country is that in Colombia, there is like a little bit fear about English. So in our undergraduate programs, we need to advocate the study of research topics in English. Indeed, I could have an example in my classes. I put all of the classwork in English. in order to just motivate the students to, okay, we need to learn English and we need to present the word in English. And my student knows it's very important right now. It is not like a necessity, it's essential in order to disseminate our worldwide. So that is one of the outcome we could highlight right now. And in the paper, we'll construct also a network regarding the collaborations among the countries. Because Brazil, for example, it's a leading country in research production because they have a lot of collaborators around the world. We detected also they have collaborators in Europe, in United States, and Asia countries. And that is not happening the same with other Spanish countries in our continent. Colombia, it is not indeed have collaborators outside. It's mostly production it's with affiliation in the same country. So that is also one of the other outcome of our work, try to understanding these networks and how this network works and how could we expand this network of collaborators among the world, which includes our Latin America countries.
Yes, absolutely amazing work you did and identified main problems. And the problem seems not to be the only lack of BCI research, but also the research that exists, it's not being disseminated. Yes. And you are trying to solve this problem and also establish networks, establish collaborations. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. And your current goal of creating a new line of research definitely adds to solving this problem. So let's talk a little bit about that. You received this invitation to start a new program, new line of research. What were your first steps? How did you start? Because the most difficult is usually to start. How did you do it?
Well, indeed, it's still difficult. We are a really new world research line. The thing was, when I started in this research line, I already have several collaborators outside our country, outside Colombia, and I try to explore my network in order to get production or get a motivation from my students. Indeed, I would like to cite my collaborators in Brazil when I did my master's degree. It was a really good starting point, and also collaborators from Potsdam University, where we have research projects regarding the action works. Establishing these collaborators, which coming from my master degree and my previous research, was a starting point to me in order to use help the students how actually our work could reach an international audience. Like not it's kind of okay, it is worried to develop an interface and looking how it is working on. And after that, you just describe the problems, I describe what it's the motivation of doing this. But just show to our students and our researchers, okay, we could doing high quality science with high quality standards, and that could be accepted and could be recognized from established research labs around the world. And our collaborators are actually our main motivation to continue with this work. So I started with that. I started to use incorporate the research project or the research collaborator inside the projects I started. And that was a very optimal strategy in order to use my students are okay. They are very motivated working on projects with people from Germany, Brazil. Currently, we have funding our network with Spain and United States with two research labs there and also France. So they could feel that, okay, what are doing in this small place in Envigado have a connection with the world, no? In the other side, the world knows that in a small place in Colombia, there is a lab doing science for the world. So that is the thing we try to incorporate in our daily activities with our students. Try to just say, okay, indeed, all of our meetings, try to just share about, okay, this research paper talks about that. We are doing similar things here. No, this person is from Poland, from UK, or from other countries. What they are doing that we also are doing here. So the students can get inside their minds, okay, I am in the haze of high quality research labs in the world. Of course, we don't have all of the facilities and resources. That is one of the other things that we are used to work with the most receptive resources. And even that, we could create high quality papers, high quality research, try to give to the students the most. And let me elaborate. So we try to give to our students all of the tools and all of the background, the necessary background to understand what is going on in the world, in our area. And they receive all of this information, all of this training due to in a near future to go to these labs and maybe did a master degree on a PhD and don't feel afraid that couldn't accomplish all of the goals they could have in these new labs. So that is a thing I try to develop in our research line to create new talents for the world, not only for our country. Of course, we try to educate and create scientists for the world. And these scientists will back Colombia maybe with a new perspective, new ideas, new knowledge, new skills. And this is kind of a cycle, because that's happening with me. I leave my country to study my master's degree, and in the near future, I live in my country again to doing my PhD. I assure that I will come back again to just starting the dissemination of my new perspective, my new knowledge, and spread the word about that this is possible and we could do it also here in Colombia.
Yes, absolutely. And you already are showing your commitment by giving back, by establishing this program. And definitely, I'm sure you will get back and bring even more from your PhD. A very, very, very interesting story. And now let's talk about this new research line. You already mentioned in our conversation before we started recording this podcast, you mentioned a very innovative approach that you are using to replace, in a way, modern imagery. Yes, so let's talk about that. How is this happening and what maybe advantages does this approach provide?
Okay, during my master's degree thesis, I call it a supernumerary brain-computer interface. This interface includes a tear arm illusion. The subjects have to imagine a tear arm emerging out from the sheets in order to create new control signals. That was during my master degree, and also I have some limitation of resources. I didn't have enough time to capture data with subjects in real time. And some of the insights from this work was that the subjects were able to imagine this arm like the dominant arm of their. And also, this signal were successfully classified from the ones from the right and left arm. So that could point it is possible to go beyond our body front borders. In modern imagery, we imagine the motor actions following our anatomical constraints. like the right arm, the left arm, and following the real names. But with this work, we try to reveal if it's possible, inspired in the rubber hands, to go further that our anatomical constraints. So I found that it is possible to classify these signals fiercely. And also the ERSP patterns um, shows a strong activity in the motor cortex related to this steer arm. We are currently capturing new data in order to provide new evidence regarding if it's possible using its supernumerary brain-computer interface in a real-time scenario, and also if this steer arm it's not like the translation of our left or right arm, because that it's also possible. We actually don't imagine a 3 or 4 or 5 arm, but just translated the position, imaginary, the position of our arms. But this translation also could be decoded as a new signals. And that is the reason we could use this as a new approach for having new control signals in BCI. Instead of asking for imagine a tongue or several other imaginary movement, we could use ask for, okay, imagine you with a tuning for and several arms. And that is one of the also our new paper or our new research activity. It's kind of up to what point we could have the imagination of complementary arms. So we are asking, okay, tier arm is okay. For arm, how is the difference of the signals? Why, sits, and the stimuli is elicited in virtual reality. So the people actually see their arm emerging from the body. So they are watching this like it could be real, having this kind of complementary arms. So we are trying to play with this. We are playing around with this, in order to incorporate new theories about how our body could imagine complementary limbs and how also embodied cognition plays an important role in this investigation, because we try to get motivation of these new theories, of these new approaches of understanding the body, because the body is, of course, our window to get information of our work. But also we could expand this information with true imagination. And that is the other side of the coin in this work, try to understand the role of the body in this conditioned states.
That is absolutely fascinating. And I'm very curious to know how do this research participant react at having virtually, one, two, three, five, and more additional arms. What is their perception of this?
The first impression, of course, it's kind of surprise. It's okay that and indeed reacts later of the capture a survey where we straightforward asks about the sensation of having this steer arm, the agency and the ownership of this steer arm. And we evaluate in a subjective way if this was perceived as a part of the body. But some of the commentaries coming from our subjects say that what's a little bit shocked to them to imagine this complementary limb. And also they feeling a little bit stress, and we would like to also collaborate this stress with the signals in order to use uh, find out if this stress could affect the performance of the user. This is our hypothesis, of course. And we also would like to, as this is an imagination task, we need to go further of the motor cortex. We would like to try to decode the signals in the prefrontal cortex in order to get inside of the attention and also the visual stimuli. And the subjects say that it's very stressful for them to imagine this their arm. And also, they try to imagine like the right or the dominant arm could be the same like the third arm. that could be a problem indeed for us in order to classify the signals. Because as the signals are similar, we need to apply several signal processing in order to processing methods in order to understand if it is possible to classify these signals. The thing is, how could we find a balance between the stress of imagining the tenure for firearm with the imagination of the tax itself, with that could reduce the stress produced by the imagination of this arm in order to maintain the quality of the signals and also maintain the quality of the performance of our classifiers. So the resting state is the key for answering this question, because during the resting state, they could perform the real movement. And we have also commentaries that performing the real movement release the stress of performing the tear arm, because imagine a tear arm is a really abstract task, really, really abstract task. And our subjects undergo this powerful activity, and also it's a new activity to them. In the first sessions, it's not easy today to imagine this arm. As the experiment progresses, the subject get used of this steering arm, and that is the point when we find the balance I tried to explain before. In this release imagination to real movement, and again come back to the imagination of the steering arm. So this approach maintains the high performance of our machine learning, our classifiers.
Mhm. So, do I understand correctly that your at least preliminary hypothesis was that the more additional arms they imagine, the stronger will be the signal and the more robust will be the classification? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So, what was the result? Did you confirm or disprove your initial hypothesis?
Okay, our ongoing data collection is used in the three arm. We are planning to expand to 4 or 5, but I can just share currently the outcomes from the tier arm. We have really nice results regarding classification of the signals in two scenarios. The first scenario is just a binary classification among the tier arm, between the tier arm against the left or the right arm, but also the resting state. And in this binary classification, it's a really high performance. When we shift to the multi-class classification, that means classifying the tier arm against the right and left and resting state, we have a reduced performance, but it's still possible to classify the signals. We applied a normal pipeline of signal processing, just that is other of the approaches. And when I release the data, I will invite other authors to test how this could affect the signal process. I mean, the classification. There are a lot of studies doing that. But in the neuroscience, we found a significant difference among the patterns produced by the tear arm. In the motor cortex, we created frequency temporal patterns, I mean the ERSP. In these patterns, we found that in the alpha region are very strong. We have desynchronization of the alpha during the imagination of the turn arm. Meanwhile, a beta synchronization appears also in the late part of the imagination. This is a typical pattern from the modern imagery, but this is found in the clear arm. So that leads that, of course, we need to get more data, and we need to generalize the phenomena with several subjects and with also left-handed people, because right now we are using only right-handed people. But we could draw some initial conclusion about the feasibility of these patterns during the tear arm. Indeed, that is in line with the outcomes from my master thesis. My master thesis already found that patterns, yes, the patterns were weaker than the ones we already found this in this data capture. The equipment right now was better than the ones I used during my master thesis, and that is other of the reason we are happy, because we are capturing this data in collaboration of a partner here in Colombia. This is another signal that we create this collaboration in order to, okay, we have currently some trouble with equipment. I can send you all of my experiments, all of the software. Could you perform the data capture in your lab? And that is the reason, of course, of support the creation of the network I mentioned before. And that is happening right now with this experiment. We have a collaborator in Cali, the Institution University, and they are currently capturing the data. The results are right now promissory in order to, firstly, this year arm could be tested in real time. And in real time, we have a really high performance from the subjects that was not tested before. And also, the patterns are more stable right now with the tier arm. So that is the new evidence we provide in the near future. It's following our hypothesis in the first step. We need to test with the complementary limbs or spy arms, and we are complementing this work with other research activity here in my lab, where we try to enhance the fingers using several fingers, how many fingers we can use for controlling brain-computer interfaces. And we are trying to include in some other signals like the muscle signals into its approach, because the muscle signals are more clear to capture the movement of the fingers. So that it's a complementary signals for the EEG. So that is also the other coming of our work in order to just understanding the limitation of the imagination, in this case of the imagination of complementary links.
Thank you so much. It's really very, very interesting approach. And I'm very curious about the link between a person's ability to imagine and the results that you are getting, the classification results. Did you notice any connection between the ability to imagine and the signal that is being produced while people are imagining the limbs, additional limbs?
To my knowledge, and based on my work, we didn't find uh, so far an evidence or a connection about the ability of the imagination with the quality of the signals or the quality of the patterns. I mean, that is one of the things we would like to explore in this study. I mentioned about the fingers. Indeed, not only the fingers, it's the hand movement, because it's very complicated to test model imagery used with the open and closed hand movement. You know, that it's the current approach in brain-computer interface. We would like to explore if the other movements of the hand and the arms, including, are possible to decode from the EEG signals. But this study should be answer also the idea about the limitation of the imagination, because the signals from the body, of course, are very specific based on the stimuli. Um, if we try to ask the subject to create signals following the same stimuli, it's very complicated to get different signals, different enough to be classified. I mean, because different signals could be already received from the stimuli, but I don't know if these signals could be possible to be classified. So we would like to test, indeed, that is a really nice question, because it's kind of testing to me if we could prove if there are a limit in the imagination of the limbs. And that could be a really nice experiment. I couldn't answer right now. We explored the using of the tree arm, but we didn't include an stimuli about how to test the signal limitation or the restriction of the imagination. And indeed, I was imagining right now how could be the experiment because it's very tricky to test the limitation of imagination, because the imagination is kind of very abstract. And try to delimitate this could be a really hard work, experimentally talking. But with the third arm, the forearm, the firearm, and the end arm, could be a really nice approach to answer this. And this is an open window to explore with this kind of experiment.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And can you maybe tell us a little bit about the use of this approach of imagining additional limbs, about the research that currently exists in the world? Are you the only ones that are trying to do this, or there are other labs and researchers who are working on this project? And how what you do is different from what they're doing?
Okay, we discovered several authors had worked about 6 fingers, uh, 3 arms in not in the places as the mind was emerging out from the sheets. Other authors try just to ask the people imagine a 3 arm, but there is not a location, a limited location. Also, the 6 finger approach is very known indeed in several papers based on the rubber hand, but also in robotic prosthesis, we know the exoskeletons works that is very related to TR approaches because the exoskeletons is a supportive machine to perform an activity as a complementary limb. So controlling these exoskeletons normally follows the stop of limb. Like, okay, I right now holding an object with my 2 arms or my 2 hands indeed. I just have to a complementary support in other activities. So here it's where the exoskeleton could play an important role. So how control this? It's like, okay, I have right now my hands already basic. I could imagine this kind of device like a thin arm supporting me in this working activity because normally these devices is in a workplace. However, the control could be very tricky and difficult to develop and real-time interface to control this device. So several research papers are trying to take in this problem with exoskeleton controlling and also with virtual reality approaches, kind of changing the body proportions, like not just having a proportion of the arm, just expanding the arm more than the normal tension, Imagine that the arm could stand in order to reach a faraway object. It's already ongoing in virtual reality. And that is the possibilities of virtual reality offers to us, because we could play around the body constraints using virtual reality. We already found a lot of papers working on this. And of course, the difference is we try to use using this twin arm of these complementary limbs in brain-computer interface. They are already developing for controlling robots. Of course, it's pretty similar, but also they try to use understanding how the body could be modified in order to use study the human cognition.
Thank you so much. It's so good that you started talking about possible applications, because that was my next question. Of course, we can study human cognition. There is the whole area of body ownership research, so it definitely will add to it. What other applications of this work do you see, maybe in clinical arena or, in general in the BCI world?
I really wanted to test this supernumerary approach in neurorehabilitation. If maybe the plasticity of the patent could be changed just for imaging at your arm, because currently we have plenty of evidence that the brain-computer interface is a really practical and optimal therapy for neurorehabilitation. And people with several disorder and also some body limitations got a therapy with the brain-computer interface. And but also we would like to expand this work to clinical domains. To me, it's very difficult because we are not have medical faculty here in my university, but that is the reason to create this network, you know, because the network, the BCI, it's not only worked by engineers or computer scientists. It's also a research area for medicine, neuroscientists, psychologists. So that is the good thing about BCI, because we could reach another domains outside of the hours. On the other hand, going to the practical application, I mentioned the exoskeleton, that is really actually robotic prosthetics and robotic exoskeletons could be controlled with this kind of interface. And finally, controlling virtual reality arms or virtual reality objects through this supernumerary interface also is possible. Indeed, we test our interface in virtual reality, and the subject have to imagine that the arm is controlled by them. And we would like to explore if it's possible, like in real scenarios where it's necessary at your arm. I mentioned a little example, like I holding an object with my two arms. I need to reach another object or to interact with other object, and in this case, at your arm could be useful. And there are many examples, like in the elevator, when I already have my hands busy, I need to just press the button where what is the floor I gonna go. So that is the thing, the kind of scenarios that we would like to test our interface. It's tricky, of course, to find out the potential scenarios to test our interface. We are going in a right path in order to get some feedback from our colleagues and also, of course, from the audience. I really would like to know from the audience what are the potential scenarios where we need at your arms in order to complete a task or accomplish a goal.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, all this discussion brings me to this area of human body augmentation. Yes, so can you maybe talk about that? Even, going forward into the future, maybe 50 years, 100 years from now, how do you see these augmentation possibilities for humans? How do you see people maybe having, multiple limbs? How will it all look like? What can become possible? Yes, if we continue developing this type of research.
Of course, augmented cognition, it's playing with the body borders I mentioned before. When we imagine several devices, I don't know, robots or interfaces or virtual interfaces, I don't know, talking about brain computer interface, but another interfaces, maybe right now we couldn't imagine that. These devices complement our daily activities, just that imagine that, I don't know, the interface of the means, the communication, but I guess that this could be the path that new technologies are going to follow. in order to use expand the limitation of our body. We have several limitations. We already know our physical capabilities, but our mind is beyond that. We always try to use imagine great memory with really superpowers. So I always imagine ourselves with superpowers, and maybe the direction of this augmented cognition could be answer the question about it is possible or not to have these superpowers. Of course, to me, it's better to just tackling the current problems about cognitive depletion, disease about Alzheimer, memory disease. If we could also tackle this disease through the creation of the devices or the creation of the interfaces, could be very nice if we could get inspiration of cognitive cognition to tackle the current disease of our mind, our brain, could be a really great achievement of our science and humanity. Because neurotechnology right now is an answer to tackle some therapeutic problems, therapeutic patterns, and this is the right path, you know. But this cognitive cognition should be also seen as a tool to tackle the current disease of current disease are affecting our well-being.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe you can point to the areas that would benefit the most from augmentation of the body. Where would we need to have three, four, and maybe even more limbs? In what areas of our life that would be the most needed? What do you think?
I guess psychology and neuroscience are the main areas of cognitive design. I don't know, try to think in the answer of this question. I thought about schizophrenia. No, I don't know if these patients with schizophrenia are having these events of having multiple personalities and all. And this personality also have bodies, it's kind of okay. My other personality have another body like the one I have. And and also with these studies, we try to give evidence for body cognition. Body cognition is trying to understand the role of the body in several cognition activities. Um, Maybe understanding how our imagination could shape our body in order to the signals. I mean, the brain signals could shed light about the role of the body in this process. Another areas, engineering with the exoskeleton, it is a area with most useful application, meaning in the engineering could taking advantage of these technologies. And design could be really nice to see this kind of interface to restore several paths of networks lost by any accident. And that could be a possibility of using this approach.
Thank you so much. And because many students are listening to this podcast, maybe you can also talk about the students in your lab. How are they involved in this research? What are they doing? What possibilities do they have to learn about this amazing area of human computer interaction?
Currently, we work with undergraduate master degree students. They normally come to ask about the thesis because my courses are related to engineering and data science and IoT. We have also a psychology department in our university, and they coming from, okay, we are working in these areas. In the beginning of each semester, we have a general meeting where we are presenting our current work, and the people come in and wanted to get involved. We are starting with a preliminary training. This training involved also some research training about finding information, um, doing literature review, writing some summaries in order to establishing a connection with the terms, the key terms in our area. And after that, we start a training data collection, signal processing, and machine learning for these signals. Normally, the people coming from engineering, computer science. So the background is programming and maths. So it is very easy to us to transfer the knowledge. Currently, we have a new people involved from medicine and also from psychology. And we try to give a new strategy to these students in order to think in new perspectives. As I mentioned before, we try to get inspiration of this area to be involved in the experiments. So with them, we try to start with the stimuli, understanding the stimuli, how the stimuli works, how we could or how we need to establish the right stimuli in order to get the signal. And they are get involved in more related in these tasks. In of course, the research training is the same for every student, depending of the background, but the complementary training is more related to the skills they have. So they wanted to get involved into programming stuff. They could get the training in programming these interfaces because we created the interfaces completely. And on the other hand, if the people coming from psychology or from the design, we wanted to get these people involved in the psychology of the experiment, in creating the stimuli and understanding how could create this stimuli, because we wanted to play about the model observation. For example, in this experiment about the action words, we compare action words with the well-established paradigms, in this case, model observation and model imagery. And in model observation, we had a lot of options to show the stimuli. We decided to use basically our research literature using first some perspective and performing the activities, videos of the people performing the activities, and also we created videos for women and men, and we have a lot of options to study. Okay, what is the influence of having the same gender of the stimuli? What is the influence of having not the first perspective, but having the third perspective? So in this place, coming the psychology and neuroscience students to complement our activities. So every people is very welcome to work with us. And as I mentioned before, we are established in Colombia, but we are not restricted to work with any people from any part of the world. And that's the reason, of course, of launching the network. We have plenty experience in collaborate with people in several places of the world, and we already have come to work with this.
Thank you so much, Jaime. As you already mentioned, the possible collaborations with people and students, can you tell our listeners what is the best way to learn about the research and also to connect with you?
To get more involved about my research, ResearchGate and LinkedIn, I try to share the updates of our research. We are creating a website to share more information about our work, but not only the papers or the events we are participating, but more information about the training processes, because we are creating a lot of material for teaching, for acquiring of the knowledge necessary for creating the brain computer interfaces. Indeed, we are dedicating right now to create material both in Spanish and English to get the audience in Latin America. That is one of the most important target right now. Any people interested in working or just get more information could write me by email and also by LinkedIn. I'm very open to answer these connections through this social media.
Thank you very much. And we will add all the information that you mentioned in our podcast notes so that our listeners can use it. So we're reaching the end of our podcast. Would you like to say anything else to our listeners? Share anything? Give some advice to our students or recent graduates that are interested working in this field of brain-computer interaction?
I guess the invitation is to be curious, not only be satisfied by the things you are learning during your undergraduate or during your master's degree, indeed during your PhD. One of my real motivation was to be more involved in interdisciplinary areas. And I'm really happy to work in brain computer interface because I need to read about psychology, I need to read about neuroscience, and this complement my knowledge based on my background. I just try to think it out of the box, getting inside of the literature, philosophy, neuroscience, psychology, um, and that is the thing right now. We need to teach our students. The world and the science it's very wide. We don't need to use try to have a short vision. You know, we have to spend out our perspectives and try to create a bridge between several among the areas.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate you being our podcast guest. Thank you for all the insights that you provided, and I wish you all possible success in developing this amazing network of research in Latin America in general, and of course in your lab, creating these innovative research programs in human machine interaction, and of course all possible success to your students. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your wishes, and I was very pleased and very nice to be here.
Dear NeuroCareers podcast listeners, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the entrepreneurial world of neuroscience and neurotechnologies. I hope you've been inspired by the stories of those who are turning groundbreaking ideas into impactful realities. If you are looking for more guidance on succeeding in neurocareers, book a free consultation with me, your podcast host, Dr. K, at the Institute of Neuroapproaches. So, what are you waiting for? Let's navigate the path to success in the world of neurocareers and make the impossible possible together.